Hello and welcome to the Fintech Finance Virtuarena. I'm your host Doug Mackenzie for today's session called What Will Customer Engagement Look Like Going into the 2020s? And joining me today I have two brilliant guests. We have Brian Stewart from Strands and Joao from Novo Banco. Guys, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm really excited to get this session underway, but I think the best way to kind of kick things off is to get a bit of an introduction for our audience from you guys. So to kick things off, Brian, could you give our audience a bit of background to yourself and also Strands, please?
Sure. So my name is Brian Stewart. I am one of the business development managers here at Strands. So I just want to tell you a little bit about Strands. So Strands is a fintech software company, also part of the CRIF group. And what Strands do, we provide AI-driven solutions for banks and financial institutions. And what banks look at Strands for is obviously to increase customer engagement and obviously identify new revenue streams through the digital channels. So at Strands we have three kind of flagship products. First is our PFM. This is our personal finance management, solely focused at the retail segment. Secondly, we have our BFM, which is our business finance management, which is also positioned the SME segment. And then we have our Engager, which is a solution that we provide to banks that gives them the opportunity to develop personalized insights. And I think personalization is the topic for today. Strands is headquartered here in Barcelona. We have offices in Kuala Lumpur, Buenos Aires, and Miami. At the moment, we have global reach in terms of our client base. To date, we have around 700 implementations globally.
Incredible. Thank you so much for joining, and really excited to hear that global perspective, because I think even though there's going to be some disparities, the whole movement is going to be pretty unanimous, so thank you. Now, Joao, also, thank you so much for joining us here today. Could you give us a bit of an introduction to yourself and what you've been working on over at Novo Banco, please?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for the invite. I'm currently the Chief Digital Officer of Novo Banco. Novo Banco is a leading financial institution in Portugal, so we're bringing also the local perspective to the discussion. As a Chief Digital Officer, my role really is to orchestrate the digital transformation of the bank, and so make sure that everybody comes along in the digital transformation of the bank. Novo Banco serves both individual and SME customers, so we're a very diverse bank in that respect. Previous to joining Novo Banco in 2018, I was with McKinsey for 17 years, mostly serving financial institutions across the European countries.
Incredible. Well, guys, thank you so much. Now, to kick things off then, I think we've really got to kind of understand the changing paradigm at play here. So if I could come to you, Brian, first to see, why do you think that banks actually need to make their services and products far more personal for both the retail markets and maybe the small medium business side of things than they have done beforehand?
Yeah, sure. I think, I like to think of this word, it's all about demographics, because if you look at the traditional banks, they had a different demographics of users, basically. So if you look at the millennials and the Generation Z, they're all about digital. So in order for banks to be relevant to this target audience, they really need to personalize the experience. And that means personalizing the banking services that they provide to these changing demographics.
Interesting. Now, I think that's something that's going to obviously play a role going forward. So, can I ask, do you agree? And as a result, why do you think that the timing then in 2021 is so pivotal to understanding the changing paradigm when it comes to personal approach to banking?
Yeah, no, I was actually going to start by agreeing with what Brian was saying, because it's precisely about increasing the reach of types of customers that we have active in our digital channels, as well as deepening the engagement with those customers. So one of the angles that we have for personalization is precisely making our omni-channel experience more plastic, so it adapts to more types of people as we have more and more types of customers using our channels. And then secondly, deepening those relationships with customers by providing relevant, personalized insights, advice, offers, so that they are more prone to come back time and time again to our channels.
Yeah. Now, speaking of those insights, Joao, if I stick with you for a moment, I'm interested to see how artificial intelligence can help a bank actually become more human. It almost sounds like an antonym almost, but I'd be interested to see how that technology can help gather those insights and make a bank become a bit more human.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point, right? Because we end up developing relationships with customers through digital channels that at first can be very cold relationships, because they tend to be very transactional, very focused on an immediate need that is served through that channel. And over time, what we're realizing is that since we know so much about our customers, if we put the right technology at work, we get to give them a lot of insights on all sorts of levels in their lives, right? So we can give them insights around their financial needs and their financial objectives. We can also be very relevant around their consumptions. What do they consume? Where do they consume? And we can be relevant about how to manage better their households in that respect. And then thirdly, even around their lifestyle, right? We get to know a lot about our customers' lifestyle. Sometimes elements that our customers don't realize themselves. But because we see the way they spend money, because we see the way they use money, because we see the way that they relate with others in society, we get to know a lot about the way they live their lives as well, right? And so we can bring it all together to give very personalized advice, very relevant insights, and because of that, a much more human experience, albeit through digital channels.
Interesting. Now, Brian, if I could then also come to you, I'm interested in we've already heard some incredible insights from Joao there, but from your side of things as well, looking at the banks from the outside in, what insights can AI also go on to inform the banks about their customers currently? We've kind of heard the kind of insights when it comes to how they interact with society, but everything comes down to a payment, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I think Joao summarized it very well, and I think what I wanted to kind of just add is like what the AI is allowing banks to do is actually, number one, know their customer, how to be relevant. Secondly is help, as Joao mentioned, help the customers of the banks around their financial well-being, and it also allows the banks to monetize it. So they need to be able to position the right offers at the right time to the most relevant people.
Nice. Now that's a really interesting point, because it's financial services. It seems like something where you don't really look for a new product. You kind of you'll go to a bank, and if you have an issue, and then you do. But then it sounds like these insights are allowing to kind of upsell and offer ultimately better financial services or newer financial products to customers that they might not have done before. Now, Brian, if I could stick with you, then a lot of larger financial institutions kind of have, I think it's fair to say, disparate, maybe fragmented information on their customers, massive silos in one part of the world, having to connect that. So can AI actually be that fulcrum that connects these strands together to provide an entirely holistic view on their customer? We've heard about all these insights, but surely if you can't marry them together, they don't mean anything.
Yeah, I agree. So I think looking from the outside into the banks at the moment, you'll have seen that they nearly really are reskilling their workforce, because they're not used to working with all this data. And I think in conjunction with something like a BFM, it is really reshaping how banks actually operate and how they can ingest this data and structure it in a way where they have a 360 holistic view of their client base.
Nice. Now, yeah, I've got to then look at the Novo Banco perspective on this. Obviously, I kind of, mentioned how maybe larger scale institutions have in the past struggled to kind of combine this approach. But can I look at how Novo Banco have looked to improve your customer engagement and actually start on this journey so that your customers get the best engagement and experience possible?
Yeah. No, so we look at customer engagement in I would say at least 4 different levels. The first one is actually just providing a great daily banking experience. So making it really easy for customers to use Novo Banco as their preferred choice for everyday banking, be it in payments, be in transacting with others, doing small deposits, and so taking care of the everyday banking needs of customers and making it really excellent. So for example, we're now working on learning what, say, transfers or bill payments you do, and then pre-filling that information for you at the right time and sending you a push notification saying, look, this is about time you pay your telecom provider. Here's already pre-filled for you. Just click if you think it's all correct. So it makes it a very much easy experience for the customer to do everyday banking with us. So that's the first level. Then it's about financial management tools. Brian already mentioned business financial management or personal financial management. So that's one of the reasons we engaged with Strands, was to give great tools for customers to manage their own finances, be it an individual or an SME. Then thirdly is about giving them insights. So based on all that information and all the data that I've mentioned already before, we can give great insights that are really helpful for customers to, one, work on their financial needs, but also, of course, other well-being aspects. And then fourthly is, because we're in the middle of these ecosystems where we have companies and individuals and all sorts of sectors in the economy as our clients, we actually get to offer a lot of rewards and other value propositions between our customer base, right? So we can be very helpful to customers, say an individual customer, giving them access to a promotion from one of our corporate customers, for example, right? And so because we know the individual customer so well, and because we know the corporate customer so well, we can make that transaction happen, right? So we think about engagement in many different ways.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Doug, can I just add something there? So I'm gonna take it again from looking outside to the bank.
Yeah.
It's also, and Joao mentioned, being able to provide personalized insights to their customers, but also from a bank's perspective, it gives the bank the opportunity to actually increase digital sales, and that's through positioning insights that, for example, if you can see that through the data enrichment, you can see that there is your balance is running low. Through these insights, you can obviously position an overdraft, which obviously that can also go in the form of a pre-approved loan. So the insights is very important, and it also offers a lot of value to the banks such as Novo Banco as well.
Yeah, and I think that's really exciting to kind of almost the bank becomes its own ecosystem at that point, Brian, as well. Because as you said as well, the fact that you can offer up within that your own customers to other customers, and it just becomes this brilliant kind of platform, effectively, through increased customer engagement and customer insights, in this brilliant kind of circle. Now, Brian, if we were to look at the problems that that banks typically, when you face dealing with the banks that don't focus on customer engagement, what are some of the biggest problems there?
Yeah, so I think a good example there, Doug, is the SME segment. I think there's been many research studies done that actually a lot of the SMEs feel underserved from their typical bank. So it can go from anything about having manual invoicing to simple availability of credit, because they have no history with the bank because they're underserved. So I definitely the SME segment is definitely underserved, and I think if you look at it from an SME's perspective, all these financial administration tasks become very complicated and they tend to lose focus of their core business. So they could spend most of their time creating manual invoices in the BFM tool. This is automated, so it's all about consolidating the financial administration for the SME and giving them more time to focus on their core business.
Yeah, now that's really interesting because obviously these SMEs are so time poor typically to be able to have to, be doing stuff that isn't for their business, ineffectively. It isn't, looking in a positive way. So to be able to offer that must be huge. And then, Joao, if I could come to you, looking at that SME offering then, I'm guessing this is, this technology has really been critical to improving customer engagement for small, medium businesses, surely, because this is, as Brian said, this has really been quite a maligned part of finance before, hasn't it?
Yeah, correct. And at Novo Banco, it's really our main segment, right? This is really what we serve, probably at the largest scale in Portugal, which is this SME segment. And it's actually quite interesting when we started doing the research with our customers, and when you start the conversation with a pure banking angle, you come to, of course, help me do my treasury, help me do my daily banking, my payments, my short-term financing, and so on. But when you step a little bit back and you talk with a CFO or with a financial manager in a more broader scale in terms of needs, then you start seeing things like what Brian was talking about, like, so help me make my admin easy, right? Because we have so much admin burden and we spend so much time, for example, reconciling accounting information with banking information. Can it be made easy, right? And solutions like Strands BFM are really at the core of that, right? So making a lot of the admin automated and easy for small, medium-sized companies to do. And then on top of that, a lot of them really struggle with analytics, right? It's not like they have an analytics department to think about, how their business is going to develop. And so a lot of the kind of off-the-shelf insights that we can give them, also again putting them in context of the sectors and the broader economy that they are part of, and giving them benchmarks and all of that, right? We are in a position to give them a lot of insights that help them focus their businesses going forward. So that's also something that is really helpful to them.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely exciting because, we have touched on it slightly and you mentioned it there, but Brian, if I could come to you in terms of looking at what this can mean in the changing role of a bank, being able to upsell all these different tools from not, previously just offering a financial product to offering up an ability to automate all this paperwork, which, as we said, very time poor segment. What are the opportunities from this upsell for SMEs and also the banks?
Yeah. So just quickly there, Doug. So I think what's really important is from the bank's perspective. Well, if they're interacting with their SMEs, then they actually get to know the customers of their SMEs. So there's a lot more visibility. So it's typically know your customer, but know your customer's customers, and then that opens up so many opportunities for upsell opportunities, because actually what customers your SME is actually interacting with. So it's kind of like an adaptation to the upsell model.
Yeah, and I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that must have huge implications when it comes to AML going forward. Being able to see that, would that have any input on that?
Look, I think in terms of know your customer and our ability to not only, of course, actually knowing our customers, but then demonstrating that we know our customers, that's almost as important as the actual knowledge. This is very important, particularly because then we're able to reliably talk about where and how transactions are done, how sources of funds are, we can explain the sources of funds from customers and so on. So having a much richer picture of our customers' transaction network is something that is it's very helpful, particularly when we talk about kind of high-risk customers where you need to demonstrate that you know well the transaction history over there. And when it comes to cross or upsell, as we were talking before, I mean, you can take all of that knowledge of the day-to-day transactions, of the financial records of our customers, of the kind of the money in, money out kind of history, and then the holy grail in terms of profitability for banks is then to transform that into credit opportunities.
Yeah.
Right, because then suddenly you know very well the credit scoring of our customers, and because of that you're able to, in case of a private customer, just offer them, very timely the possibility of, say, buying now, paying later, the TV that they just bought, or if in case of a company, there's an invoice to be paid, you can finance that invoice, right? Or you've just sold something and you're going to receive that in 90 days, you can anticipate that receivable, right? There's a number of credit opportunities that arise from knowing the day-to-day transactions that companies do or privates do, and we as a bank, we're in a privileged position to serve them with credit, right? And of course, in these days, that's a much more profitable line of business than just everyday banking.
Yeah, hearing that changing role of a bank is so interesting, and it really does show and underpin that the fact that this technology is really kind of at the heart of that, and is going to enable banks into the next decade just facilitate that changing role, because gone are the days where it's just mitigating risk and making money off a payment. Those days are over. The bank has to really do a wealth of different options, and I think by the sounds of it, customer engagement really is at the heart of that. Now, with that in mind then, Brian, we've looked at how you can improve customer engagement by using artificial intelligence, machine learning. So we've talked about the shifting role of a bank as well just then. So what is customer engagement from a bank going to be looking like in the next 5 years? No easy questions here. Got the crystal ball one thrown to you, but I mean, in from your experience, what do you think it could look like?
So, Doug, I think it goes back to the first question that you asked us around, the changing demographics. So, I think everyone's clear that the demographic is changing, and I think it's going to be it's very well demonstrated by Novo Banco. Banks really need to partnership with fintechs at the moment, because these are the most innovative solutions that are coming to the market, and typically. Some of the big banks are very slow to move, so it's very, and I'm sure Joao will validate this, that is exactly what Novo Banco did. They went out to the market and they looked for an innovative solution from a fintech, which was Strands. So I think partnering with fintechs is key.
Nice, yeah, and that really does display the kind of the speed and the exponential speed actually of innovation, and how it's completely changed the way that banks need to operate. And Joao, if I could come to you then, and obviously Brian there mentioned the Novo Banco kind of journey there. Do you agree? Was that something that came down from the board and was like, look, we've actually it's go time. We've got to start looking at how we can do this. Was that really how it went down?
Partially, yes, in the sense that we started our I'm not going to say we started our digital transformation back in 2018, but we did start a phase of acceleration, right? I mean, banks have been transforming themselves to be fit for the digital world for a long time now. The question is, at what pace and how core do you find that transformation to be? And I think we definitely put it at the center of our strategy back in end of 2018, beginning of 2019, and then we've been accelerating ever since. And the drivers for that are on one hand, really being the very best bank we can be for customers. it's really at the core of that, because we're in a highly competitive environment, and unless we can be super relevant, personalized, and offer great experience to customers, they're not going to come, or they're not going to stay with us. Secondly, we know that behind digitization is a massive opportunity to be more efficient, right? So supporting this migration to a much more efficient business model, where we can have much more self-service, much more remote servicing, automated processes end to end, etc. And then thirdly, and this is probably the most exciting part, is because we see in the rise of digital, we see the opportunity to serve customers much more broadly. So around open banking, ecosystems, so serving customers around financial needs, but then broadening our support well beyond the pure financial services, right? And that's probably where, if you would ask me, where do I see engagement going for the next 5 years or 10 years, that's probably the vector where I would see it's going to be, driven harder, is how can we be relevant around broader ecosystems, and then playing different roles within those ecosystems, right? So of course, we as a primary relationship bank with our customers, we love to be in a position to be the front brand to our customers and orchestrate the experience for them. We could also be kind of the silent partners, in a kind of finances everywhere kind of way, right? And also supporting our customers in a much more backseat to serve on their financial needs, right? So there are a number of ways we can be relevant to customers, but of course it's about thinking about their own experience rather than just their financial needs, and that's, I think, where engagement is going to go the next few years.
It's really exciting to hear. I mean, we do keep going back to that notion of the changing role of a bank, and how it sounds like customer engagement is really at the core of what is changing. Before I would have said it would be the changing technology payment technology, but it really does seem to be actually it's the customer demands, it's the customer engagement that is facilitating these changes as to why a bank is changing. Now, with that in mind, then Brian, if I could come to you we're going to start wrapping up, guys. Do you think that do you think it's fair to say that the banks that don't start engaging with this changing role of a bank, and they don't start engaging with their customers, is it fair to say that they will actually just go extinct?
Well, I think Joao just summed it up. Obviously Novo Banco want to provide a great banking experience, and these great banking experiences are becoming very, very closer to home. If you look at the neobanks, their DNA is customer experience. So at the moment, yes, if banks don't make a change, again, if they're not offering a seamless user experience, they will become a dinosaur, as we say.
That kind of hits the nail on the head. That kind of summarizes it, really. And the fact that within the next 5 years, banking is going to be a completely different industry, and offering up products that we've never seen before. But guys, I think that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for your input. It was absolutely fascinating. And as a consumer of financial products, I'm very excited to see where the industry is going to go with you guys really behind the scenes. So thank you so much for your time, and also to our viewers as well. You can catch the rest of the series and much more at www.fintechf.com, and of course YouTube and LinkedIn, where I'll see you there in the comments. Guys, thank you very much for your time. I hope you had a good one, and I look forward to seeing you soon.